Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us. It's good to be back with our sort of Foxtrot forums. So great to see so many familiar faces online this evening. And the idea is we're going to do a few of these. So we've already got one lined up for obviously this month. We're going to do one in February and one in March as well. So we're going to have a variety of different guests on our forums, and hopefully this should be an enjoyable way to spend these dark evenings, and hopefully everyone looking forward to the summer and some lighter evenings. You don't have to put up with me on Monday evenings then either. So look, it's really good to see everyone, and we've had a really good start to the year. In fact, we had a good end to last year. Our last runner of 2022 was a winner, and our first of 2023. So it's been a great start to the year. And I thought we'd start off this evening just by showing a little highlights clip of the end of last year and the start of this year.
Is Royal Mogul in front by a little more than a length to in second position Quick Sharpener, who's now throwing down the challenge. Sageburg County runs through into third place. Royal Mogul not overly fluent at the second flight from home and is now given a reminder, and on the outside Quick Sharpener looks to be proving a worthy adversary. The two of them pulling clear of Sageburg County back in third. Eddie Mush struggling to go on. We have a new leader at the final flight as Quick Sharpener takes over. Royal Mogul in second, can't respond. Sageburg County is back in third. Benassi putting in some good late work, is staying on strongly, but up towards the finish they head. Showing out in front is Quick Sharpener in the hands of Charlie Hammond, and this point-to-point winner has now won one under rules. Royal Mogul just, I think, hanging on for second from the fastest finisher of all, Ben.
Here comes Bollintley now on the inside and jumps to the lead. Bollintley has gone on, moved past Wildcats, who's now being shaken up in second place. They are a further 8 lengths clear of Redbridge Rosie, who is back in third, so making the swing out of the far side on the approach towards the open ditch. Number 17, it will be jumped as 2 out. It's Bollintley out in front, clear by 4 or 5 lengths. Wildcats, the pace setter, will have to try and respond. An exuberant leap by the leader. Bollintley, though, still out in front and clear here by 5 or 6. In second spot, Wildcats is being strongly driven. Redbridge Rosie is a similar margin in behind in third place, a further 6 or 7 lengths down, as they're now about to level for home. So one left to take. It is Bollintley, who's been a model of consistency, but will today be the day for her? She is clear by 10 lengths here at the last, and is up and over. Bollintley clear for Charlie Hammond and Dr. Richard Newland. Charlie at the double. Bollintley is going to be eased down to take our final race. Bollintley, for a first career success, has beaten pace-setting Wildcats in second and Redbridge Rosie in third.
Race at big odds, disputes it with Ross Bay Strand, Pepe Lamoco and the steadily improving Natty Knight of the front 4. Imperial BG is back in 5th, and then in 6th place, a further 2 lengths away, is Bonza Boy. Walk in the Woods is one who's come out from the pack to give chase to that leading bunch, but going over 2 from home, it's Mr. Muldoon who comes towards it with the advantage, skips over it safely, 2 or 3 lengths clear of Pepe Lamoco, who's in second, and they've pulled away from Natty Knight, the fading Ross Bay Strand, Imperial BG and Bonza Boy and Walk in the Woods. Nothing else anywhere near the leading bunch as they head towards the final flights, and then a short run in of just over half a furlong. It's Mr. Muldoon and Charlie Hammond who lead towards the last, 4 lengths ahead of Pepe Lamoco, who looks the only conceivable danger. They're 15 lengths clear of Natty Knight back in third, but heading towards the last. Mr. Muldoon at the final flight with a 4-length lead, comes to the final flight, over it safely. Pepe Lamoco is over in second. They're bunching up behind for third with Natty Knight and Walk in the Woods and Bonza Boy, but this will go the way of Mr. Muldoon, back to form, wins by 5 in the last from Pepe Lamoco.
Well, that was certainly very enjoyable watching those again. And I'm delighted to say that the jockey on those 3 occasions is with us this evening. So good evening, Charlie.
Evening, everyone. How are we all?
Great. Well, thanks very much for joining us. And well, that was great, Charlie. So well done with those 3. And 3 very different horses, but you must have been delighted.
Yeah, you know, it's been a tough year for everyone at Richards. And just it's nice to actually get all the winners come trickling in, and it's good that a few of them have been Foxtrot. Quick Sharpener was really nice. He's run very well the first day, and obviously he was disappointing at Foss last, but the drop back trip really suited him. And then Bollantly, she's just been so consistent. It was nearly frustrating how consistent she'd been, because we were always knocking on the door, but you never mind that because you're always so close to winner, and luckily we managed to get one. And then obviously Mr. Muldoon, I mean, fair play to everyone for sticking with him, because I certainly had my doubts as to whether he was past it and had not a hard life, but had just had enough of the whole racing game. And actually he showed everyone that he's still got it in him. He is also a lot lower than he has ever been, but he still got it in him, and he loved life. He enjoyed it. He jumped brilliantly, travelled to the race really nicely, and I didn't even give him a flick with a stick. He was really happy with himself, so delighted.
Well done, Charlie. 3 terrific rides, and obviously we're absolutely delighted to get the new year off to such a good start. But obviously a lot of our members have known you for many years. In fact, we remember you riding for Dr. Richard Newland as a £10 claimer, and had you on the likes of Von Romane then. Obviously, you've been very closely associated with the yard. So how much do you think it helps, the fact that you know these horses inside out, you're riding them every day and you're schooling them?
Yeah, it definitely helps, especially horses like Bollantly, who's not had loads of goes over fences, and Quick Sharpener, same over hurdles, really. You know, you get to school the horses, you get to have a feel for them, and luckily both of them actually have taken very well to both types of their races. So Quick Sharpener's always been very good over his hurdles. He's very accurate. He's just a model of perfection, really, over hurdles. He doesn't waste time in the air, but he jumps them properly. And Bollantly has always been very good over fences at home, and she's jumped nice enough at the races. Fakenham wasn't a perfect jumping performance from her, but it's also a very tough course to jump round, and it's just nice getting used to them. You know, we've done lots with Bollantly, and I've done lots with her, and you can always have the confidence in them that even if it's not their best jumping round, they're always going to find a leg. And actually, she travelled so strongly through the race that day. She was unbelievable. It's the best form I felt her in, and she was really nice. And then old horses like Mr. Muldoon, I mean, God, if I could ride horses like him every day of the week, my life would be easy, because, wow, I don't think he made one mistake the whole way around, and it was just a very easy ride. I think a lot of the Foxtrotters could have ridden him around that day, to be honest.
I don't think so. No. So I'm sure a few members have got some questions for Charlie. And if you do, just a quick reminder. So at the bottom of your screen, under the reaction button, you can click on there and then press raise your hand, and we can come to you and you can ask a question direct to Charlie. Or if you'd like to ask it through me, if you go to the chat button at the bottom of your screen, you can press that. So send a question, and I'll pick a few of those questions and pass them on to Charlie myself. So if you've got any questions for Charlie, please let us know now. I'm going to fire in with a couple first before any members do. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Charlie, is obviously the terrible weather recently. I mean, from a jockey's perspective, you earn your income from racing. It must be a very tough time of year.
Yeah, it's really difficult. You know, the last 10 days, I think how many rides I missed out on. I was supposed to have 4 at Wincanton the one day, a couple at Fakenham, you know, and all the big meetings being off isn't help either. We've got some lovely horses in this time of year, and you know, it's when you make your money, because all the races are worth more, and you can win more prize money if they're winning. And luckily, we've got all our horses in really good form at the minute, so it's just frustrating. And look, I've been lucky that I had some good days in the last month anyway, so I've got a bit of a kitty I can just fall back on. But I would also love to. We've been earning money in the last 10 days, but it's really nice. It's more difficult riding out, but it gives us a bit of chance to get to the gym and do stuff like that, and do some stuff that we wouldn't normally have chance to do this time of year. I was lucky with the first freeze. I managed to get away skiing with Sean Bowen and a couple of the other lads and all the girlfriends. That was really nice. And Sean went again last week, and I was really jealous of him, but it's not something you can always do halfway through the season and without upsetting people. But to be honest, I wouldn't want to have gone again. It's nice to be at home, and what is good about it when it freezes up is it gives you more chance to see the horses in the yard on a bigger scale. So with how things have been recently, we've been really busy. Racing starts early, so you have to be on the road earlier. And we're pulling out later at Newlands at the minute because of the dark, or we were. It's not so bad now, obviously. So in the last 10 days, I've seen more of the horses on a regular basis than I might have seen for the last month, because of racing early and we were going to various places. So it's really nice actually seeing them, and being there for the work days. We've not worked lots. We've worked enough. We haven't really missed a day's work. We've not been quite as hard as we wanted to with the frost, but it's really nice being there for the work days, seeing the new horses coming in, because we've got some summer horses coming in as well. So it's really nice that I've been able to see them come in and see how they all look and see how fresh they are in their first few days as well, which is nice.
Brilliant. Well, Joe, we've got a question here from Helen. So I'll hand over to her and she can fire away. Right, Helen, we might just need to for the old unmute.
My favourite trick. Sorry, all. You think I know by now. Hi, Charlie. I'm definitely one of Dan's Foxtrotters that remembers you as a conditional standing on the steps at Cheltenham, I think, after your early Vone Romney ride. But, you know, it's been great to see how well you've done. And definitely a keen follower. Just wanted to ask you about that very contentious subject filling the racing headlines, the whip changes, and how you feel about it. I've heard a few comments from fellow jockeys, but just wondered, and particularly with the loss of racing, the lead-in time is getting short for the big meeting.
I'll be honest, it's a really tricky situation. Something obviously needed to change because animal rights groups are getting onto it more and more, and we do have to adapt to it. You can say that we're changing the sport that everyone loves, but at some point you've got to go with the times. I didn't really agree with the backhanders, only because a lot of the Joe Blogs public wouldn't know the difference between a backhand smack and a forehand smack, would be my opinion of it. And it's not a big difference. And to be honest, is there much difference in force that you use? No, probably not. And the sticks are that cushioned anyway now that it shouldn't matter whether it's forehand or backhand anyway. A lot of the problems with the backhand were, though, like you see with Sean Bowen especially, I don't mean to pick Sean out because I get on with Sean really well, but when he hits in the backhand, he would fall short, so he would get catching down the ribs more so than not, really. And that's obviously hitting them in the wrong place. So you're almost having more animal welfare issues for doing that. So I think bringing it back to the forehand is the correct thing to do. I agree with going down one smack because you've got to look like you're doing something. But actually, I think the biggest thing that they're doing is the disqualification of if you're 4 over. So we get 7 smacks now. It is supposed to be 7 smacks, but we have the leniency of 1 at the minute. But in 2 weeks' time, it'll be 7 smacks. And if you hit them 11 times, you will get banned. Now, it doesn't really concern me because I've only ever had 2 or 3 bans in the whole time I've been riding for stick. But I'd like to think that the bans like that would hopefully stop people going over, and actually it should make it more fair and give everyone more of a chance. They are picking up a lot more though on your stick smacks above shoulder height. So quite a lot of the lads were getting cautions the other day or warnings of what might happen in 2 weeks' time if they carry on how they are. And that's for bringing your arms above your shoulder height to smack them. That's going to be a really interesting one because you're changing a lot of people's styles. You know, I could see the likes of Luke Morris on the flat being in big trouble with that. And when someone's done it for as long as Luke has, say, you might almost be really struggling to get him to change. So it would be quite interesting to see. But I'd like to think that I wouldn't smack one too much. So hopefully it doesn't ever concern me, really. I wouldn't see myself down as someone that would pick up the stick willy-nilly. But I agree with what they've done because they needed to make a bit of a change, but the backhander only would have been a massive change and that wouldn't have been needed, to be honest. I think you'd have caused more problems doing that, especially with it being in the middle of the season and with Cheltenham coming up very soon and all the Irish coming over. I don't know how we'd have got away with that one. And the problem is then, had the Irish have got plenty of bans, it would still have made it into the British newspapers every day of the week. And that's not what we want for the sport, because then everyone sees that there's a big problem, even though there might not be.
Well done, Charlie. Very thorough answer to that question. Helen, does that answer? Are you happy with that?
Very much so. I can ask a quick supplementary as to what would Charlie think if the whip ended up banned altogether, especially in terms of safety?
9 times out of 10, I don't think that giving one a good few smacks makes them go any quicker, to be honest. I think that it can help them keep them straight. I think you'll always need to carry a stick to help keep them straight. I went out with Sean the other night and he showed me a video that he's going to appeal actually for one of his bans, and his horse tried running out at that fence with a circuit to go, so he gave it a smack to keep it in because it was having a good look again. So I think you do need it from circumstances like that. You can't take it away properly, but actually, do you really need it? Not really. You can't make them go faster than they can. A lot of them anyway. You know, I'd say 1 in 30 probably you can make go quicker than with a stick, with a smack, than actually than just riding them hands and heels.
Well, the way you won on those horses, Charles, absolutely no need for it anyway, was there?
No, exactly. It's always the best way. Just be on the best horses. That's the easiest way, I think.
Definitely. Well, if anyone else got a question for Charlie, please raise your hand through the reaction button, or you can go through the chat. Now, we've had a slightly controversial question for you, Charlie, from Deborah, and I'd advise you to answer this with caution. And that is, do you have a favourite Foxtrot horse?
Oh gosh, that is a difficult question, actually. No, I wouldn't. To be honest, I wouldn't really have favourite horses anyway.
I did
Mr.
say
Muldoon,
past or present, Charlie. I said past
Oh.
or present. It didn't have to be an existing one. So there was I had no views. I was just interested to know because you've ridden so many and for so long.
Well, Mr. Muldoon has to be one. I've won 3 races on him, I think, now. And he's been such a good servant to the yard and to everyone in Foxtrot. I mean, you couldn't not love him. He's a great ride at home. He does everything right. He's so simple. Von Romane was very good for the yard. I wasn't fortunate enough to win on him, but he gave me a great day at Cheltenham. So I wouldn't really have a favourite, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be between one of those two, I'd have to say.
A very well answered question, Charlie. Well done. You're a pro at this, I can tell. Well done. So look, I've got a question for you. Where are you?
I am currently parked up at Worcester Sixways Rugby Stadium because I am we kick off in 20 minutes for 6-a-side. We play 6-a-side every Monday. A few lads from work, Max Young, who trains a few. We're second in the league currently, and we play top of the league tonight to go above them if we win. So hopefully we can have a big 2-pointer. If they don't do 3 points, it's 2 points for a win. So hopefully we can get a big 2-pointer tonight.
Well, I hadn't realised it was such a big night for you. So I hope we haven't distracted you. So what position do you play?
Centre back. I wouldn't be the tallest in the team, obviously, but I'd get a bit goal shy in front of goal. So I play at centre back. We normally have Ben, who works in the yard. You've probably all met him if you've been into the yard, and he plays at centre back normally. He's not here tonight, but he's not very good on the ball. He's a very good defender. He'll get in the way of anything, but when he's on the ball, he wouldn't be the best. Whereas I'm not too bad on the ball, kicking it around and spraying it up and down the field. Just when I get in front of goal, I get very goal shy. Get a bit of stage fright. But luckily, Max Young, who trains, plays up front, and he scores most weeks, so he's very good.
Well, there you have it. The multi-talented Charlie Hammond. That's brilliant. Well,
You've not seen me play, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah. Well, look, Charlie, just before you go, I noticed that we've got someone else on the Zoom call this evening that you may not have known was coming on. So I can see we've got a certain Richard Newland. The boss is actually on the Zoom call, listening in. So let's since he's on and he's not asked you any difficult questions, let's get him on. And good evening, Richard. And what do you make of Charlie's riding this season?
Can you see me? I've put myself on, but I can't see myself, which makes me a bit nervous. Can you see the video or not?
No, we can't see the video.
But what I can tell you before I go in again, say is that Charlie's an absolute CRAP crap footballer. He's lucky to be in that team. Max Young is the hidden talent, but unfortunately Max is a bit out of condition, so he has to goal hang, and the tactic is get the ball to Max, and he knocks it in. Isn't that right, Charlie?
Yeah, that is about right. Max doesn't do too much running up and down the field. We give him some stick. He does get some vouchers for that. But when he is in front of goal, he is very good.
Dan, I noticed that I've not had the call-up myself, the sweetest left foot in Worcestershire, but I keep waiting for the call-up, but it's not come. And I've lost weight. I'm in condition, but no chance.
We might do the call-up next week. Then last game of the season next week, and to stay top of the league if we win tonight, we might have to give you a ring.
Yeah, I'm a big money signing, mate.
Yeah.
Dan, should I get? You haven't got me, have you? A picture? Shall I dial into our back end? What do you want?
Yeah, why don't we try that again? Unless
I'll go out and go in.
Yeah, in the bottom left corner, it might say something like stop video. Maybe you could try clicking that.
I pressed it, nothing's happening. Let me go again. I'll go out and come back in.
All right, you do that. And
it's a good job you can train horses, isn't it?
Yeah. So technology is Richard's forte. It really is. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, Charlie, anything else that you're looking forward to just before you go to your football? Anything that you're looking forward to riding over the next few weeks?
Quick sharpener again, hopefully. Bonnetley again, hopefully. Obviously, Mr. Muldoon as well. You can't not say those. But actually, a horse that I'm really looking forward to, it won't be in the next few weeks, of Foxtrots anyway, is King of Rice. Hopefully, we can see what he's shown before. We can have a clear run with him and we can make it to the races and have some real positive runs for him. I think he's a really nice horse, and an enforced break like he had isn't obviously ideal, but he was also only a young horse, so maybe it'll help him grow up. He'll be stronger again this year and we can go again with him. He's a really nice horse. I've got a real nice ride on Saturday, I hope. Me and Richard don't think it's quite the right race for him, but Marne's Glory is a lovely horse. He's also had his complications, but the form of his Aintree maiden hurdle win is very, very good. But yeah, we just need a few more meetings to be on. That's the biggest problem. We've got some lovely horses to go at. The horses are in great form, or they were before the big freeze. So if they're still in the same health, we could have some really nice horses to go with, and hopefully some of the summer horses are well handicapped after not having the best summers last year because they weren't very well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Charlie, lots and lots to look forward to, and thank you again for joining us on what's obviously a very important evening. So very best wishes with your football. Let's hope that goes well, and hopefully we'll see you in the winners' enclosure very soon.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Great. Well, that's Charlie Hammond, and good luck to Charlie with his football this evening. And I'm delighted that Richard is now. We can now see Richard. So good evening, Richard.
Good evening. Nice to see everyone.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but earlier we watched the wins of Mr. Muldoon, Bonnetley and Quick Sharpener. And, well, it was obviously we ended the year with Quick Sharpener, and a great start to the year with Bonnetley and perhaps particularly Mr. Muldoon. 3 fantastic wins.
Yeah, superb, and a great thrill to see. And by the way, yes, I was watching all the videos being played back and enjoying every minute of it. So, no, real thrill. Different reasons, very quickly. Quick Sharpener, he looks a lovely buy now, doesn't he? I mean, a 2-mile horse. It's quite funny, really, and we've seen this before a bit in the past, that when you get horses that win point to points, you can sort of label them in your head as out and out stayers because the point to points tend to be 3 miles plus. But actually, certainly for the moment, he's got plenty of speed. And the 2 mile suits. I'm not sure actually whether 2.5 miles will be fine for him long term. It may be. I wouldn't write him off at the longer distances, but he's certainly got the pace for the 2 mile races he showed. So he looks a super acquisition. He's a lovely horse. Certainly he'll jump fences well. And whatever we see this year over hurdles, I'm sure we'll be wanting to go chasing next year. And I would expect him to step up from whatever he does over hurdles when he goes chasing. Bonnetley, funny enough, that's one of the worst jumping rounds I've seen her do. Charlie did quite well not to come off at the first, actually, when we pecked on landing at the first. So, but which surprised me because I've always labelled her in my head as a very, very good jumper. But look, she's in good form and she's come out that race really well. In the past, we've had this, and there's a sort of, I always think consistency generally gets rewarded. If horses keep running solid races, she's been second, I think, 5 times for us before winning. Normally, that will at some point turn into wins. And she's come out of the race really well. She's got some entries for her in the next couple of weeks. And I don't see any reason why she shouldn't go in again. Mr. Muldoon, I must just quickly tell the group that a bit of amusement, because as you've highlighted, Dan, the yard who's had a fairly, we've had a tough old time, but we really have turned a corner. And we've had, 5 lovely wins in quite quick succession. I did see Timeform last month. Someone pointed out we were in the top 10 foot informed yards in the country. So that's very refreshing. But Mr. Muldoon, I was actually away while some of this was going on. And Mr. Muldoon, I've been in Malaysia to see just after this New Year period, meeting my middle daughter lives out in Malaysia, and we were all out. Laura and I were out there, and I was on the plane at Kuala Lumpur Airport, about to fly off to Heathrow, when Mr. Muldoon's taking off, and we're a few minutes delayed. I wasn't able to see it, but I did manage to keep a little bit of signal on the phone just before, and this WhatsApp start pinging through. So I went, well, he can't have won. I couldn't make any sense of it. I was just having these WhatsApps coming through, but of course he had one. And after the third WhatsApp, I realized he must have won. So absolutely brilliant. And there's nothing in National Hunt racing quite like seeing old favourites come back. Just when everyone is just about giving up on them. He's had a tremendous amount of work from the yard. The vets, he has issues in his back and his spine that our vet Ben Cole's obviously done a very good job with. And I think he's suited going back on the hill gallop. We've got him at the Lineker's, the old Lineker's Hill. It seems to suit him well. And the big thing now is, can he frank it? Can he crack on? Because he's still obviously well handicapped on his best. We had quite a chat about him, and I think we've decided we're going to probably go one more over hurdles now and then go chasing, although he has got a chase entry for the 10-year-olds and upwards at Musselburgh. But I think it's just brilliant to see him come back, and he's always been a favourite. And we've got his full brother, of course, Raj, who's looking more promising every minute we see him.
Well, you're right, Richard. I mean, you said the yard's in good form, and actually Rajamataz and also WizKid in the Lanzarote both ran, really good races.
Yeah, they did. They really did. Rajamataz, whatever you saw there at Ludlow, which, by the way, was I thought was extremely encouraging. To me, Ludlow tells us very clearly he is a racehorse. That's the first thing, because when you've got a horse coming as a store, you don't quite know. A lot of them are just not good enough to cut it. And certainly his second bumper run was pretty, I'm trying to think what the right word is, a polite word, but it wasn't particularly encouraging. But that run was very encouraging. And if you notice, Charlie gave him a very sympathetic introductory hurdle ride. If I say Charlie's left the call now, so I can say it. So he gave the outside to no one. We went right around the wide outside. So we went there, but that's great in an introductory race, because you're giving the horse plenty of sight at his hurdles, sympathetic introduction. And I can't say that Charlie was particularly hard on him at the end of the race, which is again the correct thing. So I wouldn't be at all surprised as if there could be a lot more to come from that horse. I think the name of the game for him will be, we'll have try and get another positive run like that in, even a bit better maybe, and then we'll get a third run in, and we'll have a handicap mark, and then at some point I would have thought we'll probably want to end up going up in trip. He probably wants to end up over 3 miles, and I'm sure he'll one day want to end up over fences. But at least it looked like we had plenty to play with, lots of opportunities going forward with him. So I was really pleased about that.
So if anyone's got any questions for Richard, do put up your hand or by the reaction button, or you can do it by the chat. If you write a message in there, I will pass on any questions to Richard as well. So one thing I want to just touch on, Richard, there, you mentioned sort of the yard's had a tricky year, but it does look like the yard's sort of over that now, in really good form, as you mentioned, the time form, the top 10 trainers in form. You must feel a sense of relief, but also a sense of excitement about what the summer might have in store, and what the spring and summer and the rest of this year's got in store for the yard.
Totally. Yeah, actually, funny enough, if you break the year down to 2 bits, the first half of the year, we had a really good half of the year last year, but we just fell off a cliff when we got equine herpes virus, and there's just nothing you can do. All the horses were poorly, were sick, and actually some of those are just coming back now to get ready for this spring summer, having had long breaks. So we have to see how they do, and hopefully they're completely over it. But at the time, it was pretty shattering for us all. I've never had anything like it. I mean, it was like a COVID site when the first COVID outbreak in the NHS, we closed down, everyone was in masks and tunics and Wellington boots and sterile this, sterile that. And, we lost 2 horses died, 3 other horses needed, 2 of them needed catheterizing every day for 3 weeks because they couldn't urinate. I've never seen anything like this in my life before. So it was very, very serious and very tough for the staff in the yard, you know, nursing these horses, and particularly when you've got horses falling over, not getting up and having to be euthanized. So that was really tough, and not surprisingly, even the ones that were mildly affected by it, took a while. You know, they weren't ready to go and be competitive as racehorses. I hope they are now. And then subsequently in the winter, we had 1 or 2 frustrations as well, that every yard gets. We have had a little bit of a bug in the yard, a separate bug, nothing to do with herpes. But that's gone now, and that's a sort of trivial thing. It was never going to be a long hold up, but I wouldn't say you lose your confidence, but there's nothing quite like winners in this game, is there? If you win, if you go in, and it's very, very funny how it works. Sometimes the horses seem absolutely fantastic. They seem great, but you're not quite winning. And another day they're just suddenly all winning. It's the sort of the magic dust or whatever that you can't really quite put your hand on.
Now, just thinking and looking ahead, obviously we have, sure people, not everyone will know this, the Red Caps will know it, but we've recently purchased a horse with you, Galata Bridge, who of course ran for the Red Caps during the summer. And I think we both felt it was a horse that we wanted to stay in the yard and keep running in Foxtrot colours. And those that aren't familiar with Galata Bridge, I've just got a very short video just as a quick reminder of what he can do.
Valley leading. Twiston Davy still sitting statuesque on Galata Bridge, running to the second last. Nye Bevan responding to a bit of pressure. Systemic try to come through. Fight for it on the outside. Begin the Luck has faded as they have now swarmed around and past Elam Valley as Systemic tries to challenge Galata Bridge. Sam Twiston Davies now just starts to push a button or 2, but still looking in control. Galata Bridge jumps the last beautifully and is opening up now. Galata Bridge, well, this is very convincing. Held up at the back of the field, and he's coming good tonight, Galata Bridge. He's laughed at the rest of them. Galata Bridge wins hands down for Foxtrot Racing. Richard Newland and Sam Twiston Davies, Systemic second. Long-time leader Elam Valley third, and Nye Bevan fourth.
Well, the Pelican brief before this was that it was going to take a fair performance to win this, and Galata Bridge has pretty much made mincemeat of them here.
That's good to see.
So that was obviously Galata Bridge, and Richard, he came back into training this week.
Yeah, he's just come back into training. So we've just started off pretty much all our summer horses. They start now with an aim to be ready for about end of April. You know, we need a good 12 to 14 weeks with them before they're ready to go. So we get them started now and get going with them, and he's at the beginning of it. But let me put in a good word for Galata Bridge. I was very keen not to lose that horse. I feel sure that he has the potential to win at least one more decent race. You know, he was quite close in the big summer hurdle at Market Raise and wasn't beaten very far. Was he fourth, I think? Beaten only a couple of lengths.
Just over 2 lengths, wasn't it?
2 lengths. And you know, the race didn't quite pan out from that. And normally they go absolutely helter-skelter in that race. I've never known that, you know, for once it was slightly steadily run. So it didn't quite happen from there, but he was very close. That would be on the agenda for a target for this year for sure. In the past, with his previous owners, actually, he was only beaten a very small amount of Royal Ascot in a handicap on the flat. So there's a big engine there. Now, all his life, he's had breathing issues, long before I ever got him. So it's catching him right, getting him right, getting the breathing right. But on sort of quickish ground, he's a fair horse. So I was very, very pleased to keep him. And if there's any shares left in him, I do recommend him.
Well, they're being advertised next week, so if anyone's interested and wants to get in before they're advertised, better email me this evening. And Richard, just before you go, we've got a couple of questions from some Foxtrot members. So let's go to Richard first. Richard, you've got a question for Richard.
Yeah, all it was I saw King Arise is now back in, had his first canter this morning after the injury, so I just wondered how he went.
Well, I can't actually give you an idea because I wasn't supervising work this morning. But all he would have been doing this morning was would have been effectively half a mile one way on the sand canter, half a mile on the other way. Well, actually, were they on the Martin Collins this morning? No.
Yeah, they just did a very slow.
He'd be floating up once. But I know that everyone's happy with him. So I'm not aware of any issues, Richard, but it's obviously very early days.
Thanks.
Yeah. But I echo what Charlie said. He's definitely on the list of interesting horses that we'll be looking forward to seeing how he gets on.
Good news.
Good.
Thanks.
Great. And we've got a question from John.
Hello. For once, we've got really good weather up here in Yorkshire. And Richard may know this, but he would have a great opportunity to go somewhere like Carlisle or even further north, because the temperature at the moment here is 8 degrees. And as you go further north, it's really remarkably warm. So you might be able to take advantage of this, Richard.
Yeah. How do you read it, John? Do you think that it's going to be that the cold snap's going to last longer in the south then, and that we'll get better chances?
At the moment, remarkably, it's much colder down south. Yes,
it's extremely odd, the whole thing, isn't it? We were supposed to have 3 runners at Fakenham on Sunday, and I don't know if some people will know, but we have a holiday home near Fakenham, and so I was all scheduled to go there. I was at a dinner at Newmarket on Saturday night, and it's going to go over there, thinking, but everywhere, whenever else is cold and frozen off, Fakenham is fine. That little window in East Anglia, it was -10 in Fakenham last night. So, and they are cold as part of the country. So very odd. Actually, I was just penciling in an entry for Quick Sharpener at Carlisle on the 6th of Feb. So maybe that'll work out.
It looks very promising. I think weather is pretty good at the moment.
Yeah.
But the further north you go, the safer it is, I think.
Yeah, which is unusual, isn't it?
Very unusual.
Like Charlie mentioned earlier in the conference call, he was sort of entering everywhere because it's the thing. Does get extremely frustrating, but it's just the way it is. So, and everyone's doing the same thing. So when you do finally get an entries and the meeting's on, you'll find next thing is you'll be balloted out or not get a run or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. But I promise you, we're trying.
Anyway, good luck. Come
Thank
north.
you, John. Thank you. I don't need any persuading. I'm very happy to come north. Yeah.
Great. Well, look, Richard, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Really do appreciate it. And it's great to see the yard firing in the winners. And I know last year was difficult, but what I think we all appreciate is the hard work you put in, the staff put in, and you always put the welfare of the horses first. And that's very much our priority here. And we're very grateful for your hard work, and great to see you getting the winners, and long may it continue into the spring and into the summer.
Thanks very much. Cheers, everyone. Lovely to see everyone. Thank you.
Great. So that was Richard Newland. We've heard from Charlie Hammond this evening, and we've obviously heard from Richard. And I'm delighted to say that we should have another of our Foxtrot trainers on the forum this evening. So, Jamie, are you with us? I'm pretty sure he is somewhere. If he's on the call.
Hi Dan. Sorry, I was on mute.
Brilliant, great.
I'd muted myself, so apologies about that.
Well, Jamie, thanks very much indeed for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it. I know how busy you are. And can I just say, what a fantastic season you are having. I was having a look at the stats today. You've won. I know it's not about the money, but that's how we view trainers' success in this sport. And you've won more money this season already than in any other season, and the winners just keep flowing. I mean, Paddy Power Gold Cup, it's been fantastic. You must be absolutely thrilled.
You're very kind, Dan. It's obviously last season was one of those incredible years where numbers of winners was brilliant, 50 winners from 50 odd horses, but we've really, as you know, we've made a conscious effort to try and target some better races, and obviously winning the Paddy Power certainly helped this year, and some decent runners in graded races and ITB races. So no, it's been a good season to date, but obviously this frost, as everyone's talking about, hasn't really helped anyone.
No, it must be a very frustrating time. And how's Lambourne coped with the frost?
Well, we're very lucky here because really life carries on as per, no matter what weather throws at us. In fairness, we're so lucky that the Lambourne Gallops team have the gallops ready and prepared for whenever we want to set foot on it. So we're incredibly spoiled and incredibly lucky, but it does mean the horses carry on as per, just ready to go when racing resumes, really.
Well, that is actually a really important thing, because I need to go on social media to see some trainers can't even use their gallops at the moment, and some horses doing very, very little. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an advantage once racing resumes.
We like to think so, Dan, but as we know, racing is going to be very, very competitive, isn't it? So listen, hopefully we can sort of take off where we left off, as it were.
Now, in a moment, I'm going to ask you about a few of the Foxtrot horses. But if anyone's got any questions for Jamie, please do raise your hand or put them in the chat, and we'll pass those on to Jamie. But before I go on to the horses, I know something that everyone will be interested to know is how Paige Fuller is getting on. And what's the latest with Paige?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Paige had a stroke a couple of months ago, mid-race. She wasn't on one of our horses at the time, but it was down at Fontmile. She managed to pull the horse up mid-race, and obviously she had a bit of a stroke. Basically, she had a bit of whiplash before, and an artery kind of bit of blood went up behind her brain and behind her ear there, and she had a bit of a stroke. 2 months off. She's the scans are all good. She's back riding out now. And I think she just needs to sort of pass various sort of concussion tests and this, that, and the other, and hopefully she should be back race riding within the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, I would have thought.
Great. Well, that's very good to hear, and do pass on sort of all our best wishes from Foxtrot to her, because she's ridden plenty of good winners for us, and it'll be great to see her back riding. Cheers, Dan. I certainly will. Now, on to our horses, and if we can sort of run through them and just give everyone a bit of an update as to where we are with them. Obviously, we've got Fortunate Fred and Beholden, who have both had tendon problems, and we're hoping obviously to get Fortunate Fred back fairly soon. Beholden, sort of May time-ish, but they both seem to have recovered well. Yeah, so 2 different types of injuries. Fortunate Fred was a hind leg injury. It was probably a bang of some kind that happened to a hind tendon. Now, hind tendons are listen, whenever anyone says the word tendon, everyone kind of thinks, oh, a hind tendon is it's certainly less weight bearing, and it's less significant than a front tendon. So although it was an injury, it was a fairly minor injury as far as things happen, and he just needed a bit of time out. It stopped our sort of summer season short, as it were, but rather than he could have been back ready for the winter, but obviously he's not a winter horse, so we've given him all the time in the world. We'll start again in early Feb there, so obviously only in a week's time. We'll start him off in a bit of light work and get him back ready for the spring. But no, he's in good order. Great, and I mean, just talking about injuries, obviously Fortunate Fred and Beholden, and without sort of dragging out the subject, they do just seem part of racing now. I mean, it just almost, one of those things that do happen, but we have to get on with. And I was looking at the Cheltenham Festival, the runners in last year's Cheltenham Festival, and what was amazing is how many of them had had a year off at some stage in their career. It just seems to be, I wouldn't say part and parcel of having horses in ownership, but it is part of the sport. And so I think when we get injuries, it's not sort of it's something that we have to accept, but hopefully our approach of being patient and giving them the time means we give them the best possible chance of coming back to full fitness and hopefully running to their best of their abilities. You're so right, Dan. I mean, we're dealing with sportsmen and women here, albeit equine. And as we all know, sportsmen, sportswomen, they're living on a knife edge, as it were, fitness wise and what have you. So injuries are part and parcel of every sport. Every footballer comes away with an injury. Every rugby player comes away with an injury. Unfortunately, injuries do happen. And as you say, as long as if you can give them time, there's no reason why any horse can't come back from any particular injury, really. Obviously, depending, but the one horse that would I should have, Gar Law is our flag bearer at the moment. He's obviously won the second biggest handicap chase the other side of Christmas, being the Paddy Power,
and he's a horse that's come back from a leg injury. So, you know, horses do come back from injuries. There's no doubting about it. Obviously, it depends on the severity of them. But the biggest thing that we can ever do is give them the time to come back from it. And time is the biggest healer. You guys are very good in allowing us the time to give those horses. And, you know, as we've done with Fortunate Fred, it was a minor injury to a back tendon, you know, but we've just given him the time and he'll be fine. And the same with Garlaw and Socializer, they both did front leg tendons. And, you know, again, it's just give them the time, forget about them almost for a year. And when they do come back in, we're ready to go again.
And you mentioned Socializer there. Obviously, he's one on the injury list, but one we're very much looking forward to getting back into training once he's had his time off. And, you know, certainly what he showed at Fakenham, we should have a nice horse in our hands.
Very much so. Obviously, Fakenham was good ground over a tight track, like 3 miles, and he only just got beaten that day. If he jumped the last, he probably would have won. He does want, you know, a more galloping track, and he does want softer ground. So he's a proper winter horse. So we'll just allow him the time and look forward to him for next autumn and next winter.
Now we've got Night Fever coming back into full training, ready for the summer, and looking forward to seeing her run this summer when it's nice warm weather. I'm looking forward to some nice evenings, you know, in my shirt, enjoying some racing, not freezing cold, driving home in the dark.
Well, that's it, and certainly she's one to look forward to. She had a nice summer last summer. Obviously, ran some really respectable races without getting her head in front. But obviously, she had a win done, and this, that, and the other tinkered with. So she's a nice man. She'll be winning races. There's no doubting that. We just, as long as if we place her correctly, and there's no reason why we can't, then certainly she should be winning.
And this year we released a young filly, Spice Heaven. And how is she getting on?
Really well, Dan. I think she's a nice filly. She's by Telescope, out of a sister to Anything for Love. She ran a very good race the first day at Warwick in a bumper in the autumn, where she travelled through the race really quite eye-catchingly. She didn't quite get home. A lot of Telescopes do just need their wind tinkering with, it appears to be. So we have just done her wind. We just gave her a soft pallet op, but more than that, she probably just needed a bit of time to strengthen up. So we're being very, very, very patient with her and allowing her to come to herself. And during that time, I've been really pleased with her. She's really grown and developed and changed. And she was quite a buzzy horse when she first turned up. And she's really relaxed into her country. She's only counting away at the moment. She's very relaxed. She's very happy. She's eating well, and she looks like she's really grown and strengthened and beginning to fill herself out. So certainly looking forward to seeing her in the spring. There's no reason why she can't go and win a bumper in the spring before she goes over hurdles, whether we give her a spin over hurdles before a summer holiday. She's a winter horse, but we just have to allow the time to fill into herself. So I would have thought hopefully we can win a bumper, maybe a novice hurdle this spring, give her a summer holiday, and then back in going novice hurdling through the autumn again.
Great. Well, lots to look forward to with her. And finally, obviously our new purchase, we've got Double Click has joined the yard. And how has he settled in?
Yeah, good. He's a cracking horse, Double Click. Obviously, he's a brother, should I say, of College Oak, who we've also got in the yard. Very, very well bred horses. They're out of a sister to. Are you still there?
Yes. Yeah, we can still hear you and see you. Yeah.
So yeah, very, very great, lovely pedigree. He's out of a sister to Best Mates, who obviously won 3 Gold Cups. Inca Trail, Cornish Rebel. Even I managed to win on those 2 horses, so they must be pretty smart. So lovely pedigree. Anyway, College Oak won a bumper, a novice hurdle, a couple of handicaps, a decent handicap at Ascot, and College Oak's obviously by Norse Dancer. This lad's by Flemmersforth. So no offence to Norse Dancer, but Flemmersforth's a nicer sire. There's no doubting that. So I think he could be a really, really smart horse. He ran obviously in a couple of points, showing place form in the spring and then the autumn as well. So I think he is a nice sort. He's had a bit of a break. He's back in light work now. We'll get him cantering away in the next week or so, and then have him ready certainly for a bit of good to soft ground. He's certainly not a summer horse, but a little bit of good to soft ground through the spring, and hopefully start him out in bumpers then as well.
Brilliant. Well, lots to look forward to with our Trolley House strings. So very excited about those. And we've got a few questions from some members. So if it's all right, Jamie, we'll finish off by throwing a few challenging questions at you. So let's go to Deborah first.
Hi, Jamie. It was really about Beholden because obviously he's still out, and you know, it looked nasty when we were at Fontwell, and I just wondered how he was and if he might need more time off than we think, which, as you say, we don't have a problem with. I just wondered how he was really. I know he's still at Clare Hearts.
Yeah, so I'm just looking up the list there. So 12th of May, Deborah. 12th of May is obviously when he picked up that injury, and obviously it did look bad because he was travelling away through the race really well at Fontwell, and then he just started hanging violently to the left, which is obviously unlike him. So that must have been where he picked up the injury. We'll give him all the way through to the 12th of May before we even get back on him. We'll scan him then, and we'll see how it looks. Obviously, the scan will determine when we start him off. But there's no reason why we can't start him off. And touch wood, the scan's good. We start him off in a bit of light work in May. So, but yeah, we'll see how the scan looks and take it step by step.
Okay, great, thank you. And hopefully, if it's a good down, we can give him more time, because I mean, he was so cracking after his terrible hurdling, performance when he started, but he did well for us, and then he came into chasing well, So I do think he was a very nice horse with lots of potential, the way he was going, Thank you.
I agree, Deborah. He's a lovely horse to look forward to. And as we said with Garlaw, it's just we give them the time, they come back. So fingers crossed, there's no reason why he can't.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Great. Helen, you've got a question for Jamie.
Yes, good evening, Jamie. Looking forward to joining your yard for the first time as a trotter in the new double click. So hopefully there'll be some fun from him. This is a very basic question, really, but obviously the cold snap, and one can argue the bog-like ground before. I just wonder how much it means you have to alter training programs for horses, because most of them you have a sort of plan, but they always say that athletes lose condition faster than they gain it. Is that the same with horses?
Yeah, hi Helen. I'm delighted that you're in our team. Yay! Fingers crossed for a bit of luck. Yeah, so obviously when the cold snap comes in and what have you, we all have different plans for various horses, and we have to sort of alter those plans and rejig and go again. It's frustrating, but hey, nothing we can do about it. So we can't get too fussed about something you can't alter. We just got to get on with it, change plans, and go again. As far as training regimes, obviously you try and peak a horse for a particular race, and then they're kind of ready. So it's just ticking over and hope they don't boil over before the next intended target. Really depends on the horse's nature as to how they take that. Some can take it better than others. Some you've got to just back off and rejig. But depends on the horse. It's all they're all individuals at the end of the day. And as much as you have a plan, they kind of tell you what they need and what they want.
Jamie, can I pick up on something you've mentioned there, just sort of about almost trying to peak for certain races? Because we're in a situation now where some horses will only be running once or twice a season. The whole season will be geared around sort of peaking for one or two races. Do you think that is necessary, or do you think it is possible to maintain a level of fitness through a season? I mean, in terms of your horses, you mentioned about specific targets like Garlaw. Would you specifically, build up towards that race over a period of months, or would you build up towards the season and the horse is fit, it's run, and over the course of the season it'll run 5 or 6 times and it'll be fit?
Very good question, Dan. I personally try and get a horse fit for a particular target, and then providing we get to that target, I then relax it and ease it off, and then build it up to the next target. obviously, as far as Garlaw is concerned, we mentioned him. You know, we built him up for a prep run before the Paddy Power. Obviously, the prep run came and we got him there for the Paddy Power. We then eased him right back off with a view to bringing him back for Ascot last weekend. I thought we had him cherry ripe for that. Obviously, that was off, and we've got to rejig our plans and go to Doncaster this weekend. It's only a week later, but certainly I'm not going to do any faster. I've done my fast work with him to peak at Ascot, and this week I'm kind of ticking him over. I'll let him do two bits of half speed work before Doncaster, but yeah, I do try and target particular races and get them to peak for those races, and then back them off accordingly afterwards. But I agree, they've got a certain level of fitness that we maintain throughout the season. But you know, we might dip a little bit and then raise them to get to a race, and then dip a little bit and raise. But the basic fitness has been done through the autumn for the majority of horses, and the basic fitness is there. But you try and fluctuate accordingly.
Sort of peak on the right day, but you've got that baseline fitness. I suppose a bit like a footballer will want to peak on a Saturday, but they're not going to get, you know, unfit if you know, in midweek. It's just a case of being ready on the right day. And when you say back off, James, can you just sort of explain what that means?
So it depends on the various horses, but obviously we're talking about Garlaw there in question, and he had to, having had the best part of the year and a half off. I wanted to get a prep run into him before the Paddy Power, but then that was only 3 weeks. Very dry autumn. It was only 3 weeks between the prep run and the Paddy Power, and a lot of horses, we talk about bouncing. If we're talking about injuries, we're talking about time off. And sometimes horses can run very well, perhaps first time, and then bounce the second time. Nobody quite knows what this bounce factor is, but it is there. We got away with it for the Paddy Power, but I was very conscious that there were 2 runs in fairly quick succession on the back of a long time off. So I actually I backed right off him and sent him trotting for a couple of weeks. Just to bring him all the way back down again, to then try and rise him up for Ascot this time. That's probably not the norm that I do with horses. Obviously, as we were talking about, keeping the basic fitness there, and just, you know, the small rises and falls on the back of a race. But I think when horses have had significant time off, you've got to alter your regime accordingly.
It's really interesting, Jamie, the amount of thought and preparation and work that goes into to each horse. And certainly one thing that I've always been staggered about is your knowledge as well. And I'm just wondering how much time you must spend studying the racing, because sometimes you'll ring me out and you'll sort of say casually, oh, have you got any runners this week? And I'll name a horse, and then you'll tell me all about that horse, its breeding, where it's from, how it ran. How, you know more than I do. Do you study the racing?
Oh, Dan, I'm very boring.
Well, your knowledge is incredible. I mean, it really is. So you must watch a lot of racing.
Yeah. I listen. We do it because we love the sport, don't we? We all do it because we love the sport. We love the horses. We love, and we're always learning. We're always learning. It can't be a coincidence that Nicky Henderson is, 70, whatever he is now, and he's just hungry. He's eager to. We're always learning, aren't we? And I'm just eager to learn and want to know more. Yeah, I think we're all the same. We're all cut from the same kind of cloth, aren't we? We want to succeed and we want to get better at whatever we do, and knowledge is yeah, we're always looking into it. We love it.
Great. Well, Jamie, well done on such a fantastic season so far, and I'm sure there are many more highlights still to come, and hopefully in those Foxtrot colours as well. So thank you for your very hard work with our horses, and hopefully we'll see you in the Windsor Enclosure very soon.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Dan, thank you. And listen, I just on behalf of all of us, well done you, Dan, for putting on all these kind of Zoom chats and everything else. It's much appreciated, and we enjoy being on it and catching up with some of the guys as well.
Great. Well, thanks so much for giving up your evening to join us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Dan. Cheers, everyone. Take care.
Great. So that's Jamie, and thank you very much to him. Now, just to finish off with, I do have some Foxtrot calendars. So if anyone is interested in a Foxtrot calendar, let me know. They're pretty big. These are sort of A3 size. So I probably don't really want to post them out. But if anyone wants one and I'm going racing, let me know and I can bring one to the race course or to the stable visits. We'll be having lots of visits when it gets a bit warmer and once our sort of summer horses are into work. So looking forward to seeing everyone at the stables. But if anyone would like a calendar, do let me know and I'll bring one along next time I'm going to see you. So finally, just to say a big thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're going to do another Foxtrot Forum on Monday, the 20th of February. And on that forum, we're going to have some good guests, including Rebecca Davies, who works for Arena Racing. She's going to be talking about Worcester Race Course, a lot of the arena race courses, and what they're going to be doing through 2023 for syndicates. So it'll be very interesting to hear her views and her plans in terms of making sure that we all have a good experience on the race day. So thank you very much indeed for joining this evening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening and look forward to seeing everyone very soon.
Thank you, Dan.